On September 11th, 2001, right? I was a sophomore in high school, and I was sitting in class with a couple, in class, and we hear about what's happening, right? And then we're listening to the news report, and they're saying like, oh, it might have been Islamic fundamentalists, or they were saying stuff on the report. And as soon as we heard that, I turned to my friend Nahian. We look at each other like, with fear, man, because there's white people crying and feeling like vulnerable because America's feeling vulnerable for the first time in the last 40, 50 years, right? First time we're feeling vulnerable because we thought this shit doesn't happen to us, right? But now it's happening. It's happening to us, right? So immediately I look at Nahin and I'm like, shit, we just knew immediately we need to find our friends, our other Muslim friends. So we ran around, we looked for Tawfiq, we looked for Ali, we looked for like as many Muslim friends we could find. And we just got together as a group so that we can stay safe in numbers because we just didn't know what was going to happen. Everyone was like hysterical, okay? So today I want to talk about why I am an infidel for Islam. Do you remember before 9/11? Muslims, what did you think of them? Really remember before 9/11? What did you think? Because from what I remember, before 9/11, Muslims were just taxi drivers and convenience store workers. Muslims were just fitting under the same stereotypes that East Asians got, right? We were all lumped in the same group. They were the nerds. They were the fucking nerds, okay? And after 9/11, now you're all scared of them? Now they're like dangerous? And now they're like crazy? Okay? I don't buy this. Europe has an old problem with Islam, right? It's been going on since basically like 1492 when the Muslims were expelled from Spain, and they've always had this problem. Even in Camus' Stranger, like the spoiler warning, one of the main plot points is he shoots a Muslim, an Arab, right? So this is a problem Europe's dealt with for a long, long time. But this was a problem that wasn't in America, okay? We never had this problem. This is all new. This is fucking bullshit. So let's consider a couple of things. World Trade Center brought down by these guys from Saudi Arabia, right? And then we went after Iraq. We started the Iraq War to go after Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein is a secular guy. He was anti-religion. So why would we connect Islamic fundamentalists with Saddam Hussein? Because they look the same, right? And why is that really bullshit? Because right before we went to Iraq, the North Koreans were kicking out the weapons inspectors, and they were for sure working on a nuclear program, and we could have stopped them before they had any nukes, because they were for sure making them. Then we go to Iraq, right? So obviously, there's a lot of bullshit going on with that, and everyone forgets, it's because they have nuclear. But North Korea, man, because of North Korea, that argument makes no fucking sense. And also, consider this. If the World Trade Center was actually brought down by North Korean super spies, right? Everybody would be fucking scared of all the Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Filipino, blah, 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 all of it, all the Asians, right? And then, the media would pick up on how Asia's kind of misogynist. And they'd be like, oh, Asia's very misogynist. And they would just focus on how misogynist we are and how we're too crazy. But it wasn't us. It was some Muslims, right? So now, you know how I know this is true? Because Pearl Harbor, that's what happened. It was done by the Japanese, and everyone was scared of Asians for like a long time. There was internment camps and all this other shit because a couple of wackos pulled this shit, and then suddenly these people that have been living with you all the time are now these same goddamn people that you've been eating lunch with, living with, having your friends hang out with, your kids hang out with. Now they're like psychopaths? Like, what the And another thing, right? So in India, it is known that before apartheid, before the independence of India, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Jews, they just lived together in India. They didn't give a shit. No one gave a shit. There wasn't this eternal rift between Hindu and Muslim. That was a manufactured concept by the British. So when they left, they left that in place, and suddenly the Hindus and the Muslims started thinking, oh, we fucking hate each other, and now there's Pakistan and India, and they want to destroy each other, right? But before the British were there, they were relatively living in peace, okay? There's fundamentalists in all religions. the Greek text, the Socrates, Aristotle, all that shit, that was actually lost to Europe for during the Middle Age, the Dark Ages, because Christian fundamentalists destroyed all the libraries that were not Christian. They destroyed any text, everything that wasn't Christian. You know who saved that shit? The Muslims, okay? The Muslim Empire, the Islamic people, right? They collected those works because they realized this is knowledge, this is important, and they translated them and saved that shit in Baghdad. And then they brought it back to Europe, which helped bring about the Renaissance, okay? Because people, you don't realize, like, Islam was the most sophisticated culture for over 100 years at some point. They were the center of intellectual thought. The current scientific method as we know it today was developed by a Muslim, okay? So, my point is, there's fucking nutjob fundamentalists. They fucking suck. We can all agree on that. But the Muslims that have always been there, they're still the same people. And, you know, it's like, I just hate seeing how things have changed and how now we're, like, going against these people that were always our neighbors, our friends, you know? And this has got to stop. If we can stop this now, before it turns into what the fuck it is in Europe, let's do that, please. And I want other people to join me and just say, yes, I am also an infidel for Islam, okay? And let's stop this. Let's nip it in the bud. Bud, right? Bud. Let's end this, okay? Yes, I'm Mr. Kim signing off for the Hate Rape Parade.